So please welcome His Excellency Craig Murray. Honourable Craig Murray, it's normal for ex-colonial countries to try and keep their hand in, as it were. France is the exemplar in that. But here we have a situation where criminals on the run are actually organising criminal acts in Pakistan from the rather sumptuous surroundings of London's Mayfair. Why is our Foreign Office, our government, permitting this?
Well, I think if the British government seriously attempted to stop people who had looted wealth from overseas investing that money in the London property market and in London equities and from living here, then it would have a profound effect on the economy of the super wealthy in London because, of course, it includes our ex-colonies, but it's not only our ex-colonies. London is a great repository of looted wealth. Though in the case of ex-colonies, of course, there are historic links that those who are the post-colonial ruling elite installed or approved by the British very often attend British public schools. Of course, members of the military attend Sandhurst. So those links remain very, very real. And we're seeing it actively in Pakistan as we speak, where not only Sharif, but several of his ministerial colleagues moved from comfortable exile in the UK to take over government in Pakistan. But I think we shouldn't be distracted too much by the smoke and mirrors of the social interactions and ex-colonial links of the UK. It's really the United States which is calling the shots. And as always, the UK is a kind of facility being used by the United States, but not much more than that, really.
Now, Imran Khan is in a very dire situation. He's being held in prison, more or less incommunicado. His own lawyers have not been able to talk with him, and even those lawyers now are under severe threat of violence, even death. What can you tell us, or what can you speculate about what they have in mind for Prime Minister Khan?
Well, obviously, they feel they've achieved their immediate objective, which is to keep him out of the forthcoming elections, because he remains, every opinion poll that's been able to be taken of any credibility shows him remaining as the most popular politician in Pakistan, and shows that his party would actually increase its vote at the next election and quite possibly push up toward over the 40% mark and certainly be able to get a majority in the assembly. So they're desperate, of course, to stop him from competing in a democratic election. And they'll feel that they have achieved that with this 5-year ban from politics, which they've imposed. Of course, his lawyers are trying to appeal to the High Court and perhaps eventually to the Supreme Court. And that is one reason why his lawyers are being so harassed. They're not being allowed to meet with or consult with their client. Their offices are being raided. Their homes are being smashed up. They're under extreme personal threat. And in one case, at least, members of their own family have been murdered in suspicious circumstances, in ways that make us think that this may very well be linked to the regime. So the Pakistani government's desperate to keep Imran out of the elections, and of course it should be stated that I think there is no doubt whatsoever that these charges of corruption are ridiculous in the Pakistani context. Imran Khan, there are many things you can say about Imran. There are things you can say against Imran. There are very many good things about the man. But one thing he is not is corrupt. This is a man who has actually given the majority of his personal wealth to found 3 hospitals in Pakistan. He is not somebody who's going to spend his time trying to grab a 3 Rolex watch from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or something along those lines. These charges relating to gifts, when you compare them to the massive looting of the Pakistani state carried out by the Sharif family over the years, these charges are perfectly ridiculous.
How credible will elections be without Imran Khan and his people on the ballot paper, or do they not care how credible they are?
I think they don't really care, and nor, of course, does the world community. It is just simply astonishing how little publicity there's been for what has happened in Pakistan, where the democratically elected prime minister has been jailed. And not only that, but literally thousands of his supporters are in jail, thousands of people. And these are mostly middle-class people who in many cases are quite new to politics. And there's almost silence. Yet Pakistan is a country of 250 million people, and a country which has a massive diaspora, and particularly a massive diaspora in the United Kingdom, but also a massive diaspora in other places, like the Gulf states, for example, in Australia, in many countries, in the United States even. It's very hard to understand the complete reaction. And you compare this lack of reaction to what happens when a French puppet is deposed in Niger, which is a far smaller country in terms of population, with far less connection to the West, and yet that has received 10 times the publicity as effectively the coup in Pakistan. It's very, very difficult to understand this, and as I know you have experienced yourself, I've never seen social media suppression like this, and we're getting used to social media suppression. But around events in Pakistan, it is really quite extreme and extraordinary.
I can't understand it either, and both of us have experienced it. We opine on all kinds of things, on Niger and Nigeria, for example. Perhaps I shouldn't mention it in case it comes to pass, but I'm reaching millions of people talking about Niger and a few hundreds talking about Pakistan. Now, we both remember the time when Imran Khan was never out of the newspapers in Britain, not just as a politician, but as a former playboy, as a wonderful ace cricketer, as a personality, a celebrity. And yet here he is now in prison on trumped-up charges, and not only can you not get anything into the mainstream media about it, if you do a video on it, only a few hundred, tiny number of thousands of people will be allowed to see it. So somebody is telling the social media companies to suppress news about Pakistan. Who could that be, and what would be their reasons, and why are the social media companies complying with it?
It's astonishing, isn't it? The only thing I've seen on this scale was the Hunter Biden laptop story during the American presidential election campaign, where all social media were told by the FBI directly to downplay or stop circulation of comment on the Hunter Biden laptop, and were, of course, told it was fake, and it was a Russian fake in particular, which turns out it's now admitted to be completely untrue. Everybody now knows that was not a fake, and the Hunter Biden laptop was entirely genuine. But in that case, and of course, the Twitter files were released, and Zuckerberg has confirmed it's also true of Facebook. it was directly the FBI itself directly intervening with the senior management of the social media organizations. And it must be something like that again. It has to be something of that order, which gives you some idea of the priority that the United States had given to getting rid of Imran Khan. And of course, we have to remember why. He not only campaigned against drone operations in Pakistan, he stopped drone operations in Pakistan, and he stopped American military operating out of Pakistan. He moved to get his oil supplies from Russia instead of from the Gulf states, and moved to stop paying for oil in dollars. He refused to back motions at the United Nations supporting the United States position on Ukraine. So, here you have this person who had a very strong international profile, as you say, and a high degree of international credibility, while a person widely appreciated and looked up to in the developing world, who was seen as a threat to the United States. And they've managed to get rid of him, and to do so quietly. And they do look very much like they're hoping he's in terrible conditions at Attock jail. They're quite possibly hoping to actually kill him off in jail. And that requires maximum suppression. That is the only thing that explains the extreme degree of suppression of this story.
When I saw the accusation against him that he had been aggressively neutral, I recalled the basis on which the so-called Labour Foreign Secretary Jack Straw dismissed you from your last ambassadorial post when he said you had overly focused on human rights. It was of that level of absurdity. Who can be aggressively neutral?
Yes, that's really quite extraordinary. I mean, of course, in a way, this is meant to be an example to other leaders that if you don't jump when the United States says jump, when the United States insisted in public that Pakistan vote for a motion condemning Russian action in Ukraine, Imran Khan replied saying, "Are we slaves? Are we slaves?" And the Americans can't stand people turning around to them and saying, "Are we slaves?" Because the truth hurts, and the truth is they do treat the developing world like slaves. They don't accept the developing world has a right to its own opinion, to its own ideas, and to an anti-imperial, anti-colonial background of way of thinking. So I think there are deep lessons here in the treatment of Imran Khan. It's not a kind of one-off episode.